Hello, everyone. Welcome to the N.O.P podcast show where I get to speak to anyone interesting that's willing to talk to me and anyone who wants to have their opinions said and talk about the world that they live in and the world that we all live in this new age. And today we have Josh Fernie.
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 Hello.
And thank you for coming along to see what we're talking about today because the interesting world we're living in now, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here. Always got something to say, me.
I know. I've noticed you since maybe middle of last year where you've started popping up on your TikTok and your social medias. I'm like, this guy lives near me.
Yeah. That's it. When I first started speaking out politically, there wasn't very many people doing it up here. Do you know, it's taken a while for people to catch on. So yeah, that's why a lot of people have noticed me as they've come more into this sphere, as it's becoming more socially acceptable for people to speak out. Those who watched from afar before are managing to touch base with me, and it's just class to see how it has grown, to be fair. Do you know, in the past 18 months, like these protests we do, 18 months ago, we just struggled to get anybody on our side. Whereas now there's so many people who feel patriotic, who feel hard done by the government. Not just the government, but like the whole establishment, from the political elites to like the police force as well, the way they actively work against us. Fair enough, a lot of them are just mutts for the establishment, but still, the way that they crack down on our people, it's making hard times make strong leaders, and that's exactly what's happening. We're literally living in the fires of multiculturalism right now, and it's forging us.
I was going to say, it'd be interesting to know your background before I go any further. So I will touch what he just said, but would you like to explain to people who you are and where you're from and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'm Josh Fernie. I joined the military when I was 21 years old, went away to the RAF, because I thought I was doing the right thing, thought I was protecting my people, my homeland. My dad was in the RAF, my granddad was in the RAF, my great-granddad fought in the Second World War, my great-great-granddad fought in the First World War, so there's a long line of my family feeling patriotic and loving our homeland and loving our people and wanting to protect them. And I'd grown up in the age, like I was born after the IRA. So in 2015, when I was 14, that was when we had the terrorist attacks in London, the 7/7 bombings. And then I joined the military, and obviously there's been all these terrorist attacks on our soil, and it's all been Muslims. So then I joined the military, and the people you're being trained to fight against there are Muslim extremists. So I was fully indoctrinated into the whole civic nationalism movement, that all our problems came from Islam, really. And then left the military and went offshore, worked my way up, ended up working in investing in a company, and then Southport happened. And I was made to leave that company. With it being in the oil industry, you do work with the Middle East. So I pretty much became toxic after I started speaking out, was classed as racist. But the best thing that did for me was it made me go my own journey, because I was, even though with COVID I questioned things, I still was marching along to the beat of the drum, that the path that I'd been put on rather than a path I found myself to be walking. And that's it. When I started going to do my own research, reform was coming about, and I thought that reform were going to be this great answer. And then they put Zia Yusuf as the chairman, and no political party that has a Muslim in their top tier management is going to be able to save Britain. So that was me. I walked away from reform as a member then, and I went on like a big 6-month journey, really, trying to find myself in politics, because I've always been really passionate about politics. Even though like I was saying, when I was in the civic nationalism movement, I didn't realise that I was going along with the whole replacement drum But then, yeah, like I was saying, I was on this like 6 month journey, and I found real nationalism firstly with a party called the National Housing Party. They're a Christian nationalist movement, so it was good to really start to understand what the script is with nationalism. And I was still at this point believing that ethno-nationalism, like ethnic nationalism, was like the root of all evils. And then, yeah, from spending time with the NHP lot, I started to realise that there's more to the political sphere than what we're being told, what we're being allowed to say, should I say. All these things, so it started to become abundantly clear to me that every any group that are able to isolate, are able to is isolate the right word? Are able to
Segregate.
yeah, if they're able to tell us what we can and can't say, that means that we're pretty much a slave to their way. So, and that's really what I was starting to learn. And then I started to speak to people from the Homeland Party because I wanted answers, and I'd finally decided that I wasn't going to let anybody tell me what was racist, what was any of these words, any of these buzzwords that they like to use to silence us. That's the word I was looking for. If any group can use a word or a phrase to silence the native population, and it shows that you're already allowing them to enslave your people. And that was just really what nationalism made me realise, is that all these things, me being led to believe that people that are born and bred here, as so many people like to say, could make you British. And finding nationalism, speaking to Homeland and that, I started to realise that ethnicity is all about your ancestral ties. There's nothing racist to it. Our ancestral ties go all the way back in Scotland and in Britain. This is our homeland. It's the homeland of our people. And that's really what made me real. When I started to really look into ethnic nationalism, so started to realise that it is the only way to really keep our people safe. And that was why I just stayed on the path, really spoke to the Homeland lot. And yeah, that's how I ended up being part of the Homeland Party, which is classed as a neo-Nazi party because we stand for the native population. Now that, if you say to somebody that I stand for the native population after me serving in the military, they'll be like, and then I tell them that I'm part of the Homeland Party, they immediately start telling me I'm some sort of traitor. Like I was in the RAF and the military at one point fought against the Nazis, and now they see me as some sort of Nazi because I want to stand up for the native people. And I'm willing to say that to be one of the native population, because ethnicity will always have a race card to it, will always have a race characteristic to it. So because I've got the courage to say that white lives matter and that the ethnic Scottish people are white and the ethnic British people are white, that somehow makes me evil. But yeah, served in the military, came out as a civic nationalist, and through things that have happened on our shores, I've quickly realised that there's a lot more to it than just Muslims bad, everyone else good.
Would you like to go further on what you thought there was more of apart from that?
Yeah, so
I'll let you drink. Let him drink. That was a good bit.
So when you look at why we have a mass immigration problem, when you look at all these wars we've been dragged into in the Middle East, all these displaced third worlders that come to our shores are because Israel are bombing them. Now, people think that Israel is a massive ally of ours. But then you look at how Israel was formed. Israel was formed after the Sergeant's Fernie King David Hotel bombing, which were the Irgun Jewish extremists, Jewish terrorists targeting the British soldiers that were over in British mandated Palestine. Up until we started getting Muslim attacks on our shore, the King David Hotel bombing was the biggest loss of life that Britain had ever had. Now, then you look at them arming the Argentinians during the Falklands. So these are all paths that if I'd have tried to research these subjects before or spoken to people about these subjects, I'd have instantly been tarred as probably some sort of crazy extremist. And then, so following on after the Falklands, then I started looking into like the Gulf Wars. Iraq, the whole Saddam having WMDs. For 30 years, Netanyahu's been telling America, been telling the West that Islamic nations are so many years, so many months away from getting nuclear weapons to drag us into these wars. And I honestly thought when I was part of Op Shader, which was the bombing in Syria and Iraq, I honestly thought that we were fighting against extremism. But I thought we were fighting against like Islamic extremism. Also, I thought we were fighting against this evil like dictator that was like mass slaughtering innocents in Assad. But really, if you look at what's come since then, since Israel helped the Islamic extremists overthrow him, they're just wiping people out. So this is like the things that I was looking into, and then people talking about like civic nationalism. The biggest proponents of mass immigration into the West are left-wing Jews, left-wing Jewish elites. And so these are the people who you're being told are the only democratic nation in the Middle East, and they're fighting on our behalf. And it's a load of rubbish, because the fighting that they're doing is pushing all these people onto our shores. All these foreign dangers that we're getting now, all these grooming gangs, all these terrorists on our shores have all been pushed here by the wars in Israel. By the wars that Israel's been fighting, sorry.
I was going to say, maybe... Well, I'm going to get a lot of heat for what you've just said there about Israel and Jews and so on. You are aware of some of the bombings that happened in Israel before the agreements, like before the 1948 recognition. It was done by both sides of people, Islamic extremists and Zionists, and the British were basically just on their own turf on that point. So is it really fair to blame one side of the argument, or just...
It wasn't Islamic extremists that kidnapped two British soldiers, the sergeants, and then booby-trapped their body for British soldiers to find. It wasn't Islamic extremists that blew up the British headquarters in mandated Palestine for our operations over there. So, yeah.
I'm on about things like bus bombings, the things that Islamic extremists, or they would call themselves Palestine activists, or whatever name they chose. They would... Basically, everyone was in three camps of their own. The British were in their camp, Jews and Zionists, or whoever wanted Israel to exist was another, and then extremists and Islam, and who were all killing each other, basically. We were all guilty in these parties, but I suppose just acknowledging that point, really.
Yeah.
Because... we've all seen how bad the wars in the Middle East come. There are some things in what you've said is true and what is not true. Or I feel like they're true and not true. We've been lied about the Middle East all the time.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no truth by it. But I think it's a fair, like everyone would say good guys and bad guys. Everyone in the Middle East is a dick.
Yeah.
Everyone over there is a dick.
Exactly.
I'm sorry that I offend you, but everyone just over there is a dick. I've never got a chance to say that before now. But there are people who exploit people for money. There's people who exploit people for slavery. There's people who don't know anything about democracy or democratic wills, but willing to blow up as much or enslave as much people to get more money. But then some people don't know how to extract oil, so they ask Americans or Brits or someone else to do it for them. So it's not like I'm not giving, say, I hate anyone from those places. I'm just acknowledging that everyone from Suez Canal to every oil field that exists, nobody's been nice since ever.
No, and I'll clarify as well that when you see these marches on our streets, whether they're pro-Israel or they're pro-Palestine, I think they're both pointless, because all they're doing is dividing our population. As you're saying, people see it as good guys and bad guys, when really they're not. Neither of them are our allies. Because like you are saying that about like enslaving people. Look at slavery. the Atlantic slave trade was ended in what, 1827, 1826, something like that.
35 by us, I believe.
So 1835.
Something around that date.
And then
yeah.
the white Christian slave trade by the Ottoman Empire didn't end until 1925. Do you know? So they were still enslaving us until the end of the First World War. But nobody speaks about that because it was the white Christian slave trade. And we weren't selling each other like they were over there. We weren't selling our people into slavery. They were landing on the shores of like Cornwall, Ireland, and just taking people after absolutely butchering them.
Because there was we're going into history of all things, but is history, I do look into history of all these different things. So, like, I would say the only thing is blaming one group of people for everything isn't exactly the way to do things, I would think. Because we know, like, we both know these things exist, because you can say that statement and there will be people who will be like, there's no clarification after this at all.
Yeah.
They'll be like, I want to blame, say, I blame Muslims for, I don't know, 7/7 bombings. And I'm like, okay, that means every brown person is guilty of charge. Throw them against the wall.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa. That's a lot for anyone to take on seriously.
The only people we should be blaming are our elites. Do you know? They're the ones that have allowed, for generations now, decades of MPs telling us to be tolerant has allowed us to get to the point where we are, where, like I was saying earlier, if you can be silenced by a certain groups of people, so that's Islamophobia laws, that's anti-Semitism, that's racism, that's homophobia, transphobia, all these buzzwords that they love to use, all these groups of people are just as not, the people that want to silence you are not ever going to be your allies, what I'm trying to say.
And I worry when that becomes the case, because we're getting a lot of people now, like, we're supposed to be sort of celebrating that everyone's acknowledging there's a difference between race, ethnicity, and so on. But we're actually getting more divided over this, aren't we?
Oh, 100%. And that's, yeah, the political landscape, as things get spicier on our streets, the political landscape is 100% getting more polarizing. But what people need to really ask themselves is, do you want your kids growing up in a world where they're going to be the second-rate citizens in their own ancestral homeland, where everything they say has to be curtailed, you know? They have to, everything they say, they have to worry about who they're going to offend. Do we really want our way of life to be dictated to us by outside influences? Doesn't matter if that's Israel or some Islamic state, Qatari money, it doesn't matter. We should not have to live while having outside people forced onto us. We should not have to have our culture. People love that word, say it's all about the British culture. But if you take away all the British people, if you take away what makes us, like our heritage, if you sever all those ties that we have to our ancestry, if you get rid of all the Scottish people, because that's what the SNP is doing, they're wanting, even though immigration isn't a devolved power, the SNP are still like, we want migrants, refugees welcome. But what do they call all these people? If you Google it, you'll see they call them New Scots. It is the government's term for for these immigrants that they're bringing in. New Scots sounds like a name that you would give to a conquering population. They've overthrown the Scots, so they're now the New Scots. Do you know? So
It sounds like a costume in a way.
Yeah.
It's like Scottish people sound like a costume. Like anyone can wear a kilt.
Yeah.
It's like anyone can say, I love haggis, but I do see there's like an account that says there's black Scot. No, we're African Scots. And I'm like, I get the count's supposed to be positive and everything like that, but calling yourselves that's kind of saying, are you trying to take over, but you're still recognizing your ancestral history to adapting you to a culture that's not yours, plus also conquered you and enslaved you for a little while, and then so on.
It's crazy because they even say like
I'm not shitting on your account. It's a nice account. It's just a name. That's all.
it's when they say that, oh, this is revenge for what the British Empire did. So British Empire ended slavery. The British Empire, fair enough, the British Empire conquered most of the living world, but that was when everyone was trying to, anyone with like that mentality of explorer to them, any set of people that had that in them were trying to conquer the world. That was just the way everything was new back then, and it just so happened our people were better at doing it. And then they were saying that we need to be colonized because we colonized the world. It's just like
The problem with history is everything was normal to them to an extent.
Yeah.
Like people said, you used to kill animals to survive. Yeah, we used to stab them really harshly.
Yeah.
We wiped out mammoths, if you want to go that far back. It's like we used to stab people because they annoyed the other camp.
Yeah.
And we're like, trade deals, things like that. Like everything to an extent was normalized until it was unnormalized.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say progressive, but there was a moment where the Isles of the UK absolutely fucking hated each other.
Yeah.
And even with the Act of 1707, 80% of Scots hated the English still. I highly doubt I could find any Scotsman or Englishman who hates each other that much, because they were still at each other's necks at that point.
Yeah.
Like they hated each other, and you wouldn't think of it now. It's like when it came to 1707, 1650, all the way back to, is it King James IV? Bloody Mary's son.
Yeah.
He tried to do something that probably people thought would never happen. Because people say there's never been a deal with, like, say, Israel and Palestine, two-state solution, whatever it is. You've never had that thing before.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have England and Scotland. Look at them when they were forced by their elites to change something.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you had to give the people a reason to celebrate, and it's like, say, look, they're not all bad, we're all people. But then that, pushing that extent of that truth can get pushed over. Because we're looking at 1997, where we had Blair, government, 1,000 new laws, a flux of immigration to the country, and then these things you're talked about, trying to basically get rid of national identities such as Englishness, Welshness, Irishness, Scottish. Actually, no, they kept Scottishness because it was good for money.
Yeah.
But it was good with the government. And we're starting to see now, we'll stick to Scotland mostly, but we're starting to see now even the government is copying the lines of the English.
Yeah.
Westminster government, where they're saying, if it's on our approval, that's real Scottish patriotism. But if you start saying it, you're a right-wing fascist bigot.
Yeah. That's what always gets me. So because I was raised in a military household and then joined the military, I was never one of these where Scotland should be independent or that. Like, I voted no in the independence referendum. But see, now that I'm really into our nationalism and that, and understanding that, I do believe that Scottish people should make the decisions for the rest of the Scottish people. But I do not think that we should be independent under someone like the SNP. We cannot be an independent nation until we've had remigration, because until we've had remigration, there's still going to be foreigners trying to push their ways, or there's going to be foreigners in like the elites, that are still going to be able to pull strings for their native people.
We do see, like, I was going to say, I've had to clarify for people at home, England and Scotland are separate countries, but they're all united, the United Kingdom. The recognition of remigration is stronger in England because you've got the actual English ethnic, mostly white, if not all white, denigrated. The population used to be 95 in 1997, or 95. It's now 60%. And migration of not just Europeans, but outside Africans, Middle Easterns, others, from every other continent. has actually dwindled down the actual national population of England, and that's why you're seeing now a national, what do you call it,
National emergency.
national, well, in a way, national recognition of what ethnic nationalism is, what civic nationalism is, what policies have been put in place, and all these kind of things. And you mentioned when we come to Scotland, it's 95% white.
Yeah, that's because we've still got masses of area like up north that are untouched by mass immigration because it's so bloody cold. But you look at Aberdeen, you've got to look no further than Aberdeen. Like, obviously, you've got Glasgow and Edinburgh because they're a lot closer to the border and are getting absolutely smashed.
I mean, Glasgow and Edinburgh are the central hubs of Scottish power, so...
Yeah.
And Glasgow has been named the refugee capital of Britain.
Yeah, and is it not the rape capital of Europe as well?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
It might just be
Please don't.
It might be Britain. It might be Scotland, sorry.
I think you think of the drugs.
Is that what it is?
Dundee, which was on the news the other day for the Romanian grooming gangs,
Yeah.
which is sickening. But you've also got to know, because I see Dundee every day, it is a shithole.
Yeah.
And we had an incident where, thank you to all the Americans out there who get to see the girl with the axe and the knife, and people are like, "Oh, why would anyone be wanting to walk around with an axe and a knife in their pocket?" And you're like, "Well, that's why."
Yeah.
Because there's gangs out there. Dundee's not very wealthy.
No, it's not.
It's not very wealthy. It's very poor, and if you can forget a population and just ignore them and use them for votes, you're going to get abused by every system that exists, not foreign ones, local ones. Because if you just ignore, if you know like, oh, these people are a bunch of druggies, they're not going to care, but they're going to vote for us anyway. We'll just say, we'll stop drug deaths as a policy, and hopefully they'll just vote for us just in ignorance. And then you get news like this with how much girls was there? It was like, how much was that in Dundee? Rape gang of
10 people, 10 Romanians, and I can't remember. But they're not actually Romanians, they're gypsies.
And also the person that harassed the 3 girls that was in the video, the media in Dundee actually tried to paint them as, it was the boy and the girl who were really nice, and they were being racially attacked, but now they're both arrested.
Yeah.
So we still don't know what charges, so I'm not going to say anything to implement a court case, but...
Described the girls as feral.
Did he?
That's the news did. Described the mainstream media described the girl with the axe and that as feral.
So it's definitely the case of, I suppose the immigration issue is coming up to Scotland though, and it's that Dundee's probably the highlight point. We also saw highlights, specifically this conversation in Scotland with the Peterhead protests, with the migration hotel ones, which spawned from the Epping ones, which that story is now escalated to worse international news, where the guy got let out by mistake. I think he was given £500.
He was so that he wouldn't make a scene or that or cause problems with getting deported.
Yeah, he got international news for like a week. So well done.
And Sky News were giving him an interview yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. So they've just dropped themselves into the same category as the BBC. They'll interview paedophiles to see what they've got to say.
And he was charged on those cases, so
But as I was saying about Aberdeen,
I went off there. Sorry.
With the immigration, so 2014 we had the massive oil crash. By 2016, 100,000 jobs were lost in Aberdeen. The SNP did nothing. They left us. They hung us out to dry because, as you're saying, Dundee is a poor area. It's never had much money, Dundee. So that's why you do find that it's the poorer areas will vote very strongly for someone like the SNP because they believe the whole all Westminster is the problem, Holyrood's our saviour. But then, like I was saying, Aberdeen, we were hung out to dry, and the SNP did nothing to protect Aberdeen. And then since then, they've just let Aberdeen like pretty much die. The beachfront, George Street has gone from, fair enough, it was never like a very good street, but it's gone from like crackheads walking up and down it to it having like African hair salons on it. So all these areas that have been run down, left to die. The Patio Hotel down the beach used to be a gorgeous hotel. Do you know, I used to go there with my granda. Used to go swimming with them. And now that's been left to go bust so that they can fill it with asylum seekers. Do you know? All these areas, SNP, it's all been done by design. They've left areas of Aberdeen to just disintegrate so that they can then go and flood them with foreigners.
I suppose what I should have been trying to get to is like, say 15, 20 years ago, saying the get rid of the foreigners would be quite a harsh statement. In Scotland, it'd be 95%, where this conversation has dragged 15 years, but the national conversation has moved to the Overton window, where you got people like the Forum who are gaining popularity because they're called nationalists, in quote, but you've pointed something out that a lot of the formers would be like Zia Yusuf. I've seen him for him trying to run a sort of, what was the company? It was basically a 1% we do everything for you kind of club, like run offices and all that. The reviews were shocking, by the way. They were like, he couldn't even do that, but he was qualified enough to be the Reform, what's he, chairman?
He was chairman, and that would have made... you'll have to double check this, but I'm sure that Reform have said that he would be the Chancellor of the Exchequer if they were to take power. But it's more of a if, because in 2029 they're going to win.
Unless something changes, because people are starting to look at different parties, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because they're starting to see the Reform not standing alone. It's if Nigel Farage stands down, Zia can take his place. And for people who have had a real problem, say Luton, with Islam, Muslims, probably foreigners, and you're like, okay, not the ideal party for me to join.
Yeah.
And I suppose what you were saying about, we can't really get rid of every immigrant, can we?
But why not? Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying that we need to go back to 100% like ethnic population, but what I am saying is, why, if we wanted to, the native population, why shouldn't we be allowed to make that decision? Like, because at the end of the day, this is our homeland. It's not as soon as you're an immigrant or a generation of an immigrant, it doesn't matter if your grandparents came here and you were born and bred, this is still not your ancestral homeland. Like, if Britain was to disappear tomorrow, all these foreigners would have another place to call home. They'd just go home, whereas us, we'd have nowhere else to go. This is our one and only. So if we consecutively, as we said at the start, because I know people say Scotland's always voted for the SNP, so they've obviously wanted more immigrants. But as I said, immigration isn't a devolved power. So people in Scotland know that they've been that's why you vote Holyrood and you vote Westminster. And we've actively, the whole population of Britain has actively voted for less immigration. And like you're saying, we've got to the point now where people are having to speak up because we are getting thrown to the cosh of multiculturalism, even though we voted against it. So why should we not have the power to send foreigners back? Why should we not have that power? Like, because we're talking about remigration.
Can you just define remigration?
So remigration
because in the video it's sounding a bit mixed between what you mean by that and just kicking every foreigner out.
So remigration is a set of policies and laws that will be brought in to reverse the damages of mass immigration and also put the control of a nation back into the ethnic people's hands. So it'll be cutting all benefits, deporting all foreign criminals, deporting folk who haven't assimilated or we'll be deporting people that have been born here because, like I'm saying, it's not their ancestral homeland. Descendants and dependents will have to go as well because our taxes have been put up year after year after year. And where do they go? They go to fund all these people who are a burden on our society. And people say like, oh, your population's declining, that's why you need immigration. But what we're doing is we're pulling in a load of people that are making our streets less safe, and they're also outbreeding us. Do you know? So their population's absolutely booming on our streets, while our population isn't wanting to have kids in a world where they literally can't afford to live at the moment. No. Most of the average working class people. Whereas these people that are coming here, let's look at the asylum seekers. They're given driving lessons, they're given gym memberships, they're given a whole assortment of stuff that our people are not given. We've got veterans sleeping on the streets while they're getting hotels given to them.
And we know this because we've literally seen the local Glasgow government come around and say there's no such thing as refugees here.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. But yet, last week, they stopped the homeless shelter for getting their application to have a homeless shelter in Glasgow for homeless people.
It's just, it's...
Us, Scottish people. It's like, because even there was a conflation of every refugee, or so-called refugee, because when you see someone throw their passport in the water and call themselves a refugee, I don't know what you're supposed to call that except a criminal, but I don't know.
But the folk who oppose my side of the argument, they say like, oh, nobody's illegal. When you break into someone's nation, whether that's on a lorry, on a boat, don't matter. Back in the day, if you'd have broken into our nation, it would have been a declaration of war, do you know? Or you'd have been dealt with. Our channel would have been secured. But they're saying like, oh, everyone has the right to come to Britain.
Not really, no.
Exactly, because they're totally changing our way of life.
Because I think what that line comes from is basically social progressivism, communism, and globalism, where every citizen is a person of the world. So there is no need to think of people as separate.
Yeah.
There's no need to divide people along lines of colour, race, ethnicity, nationality, heritage. And you're trying to say this to people that have a defined culture. If you're American, this doesn't quite apply to you because that country was founded upon calling the land after a continent. There was no natural heritage to that place.
Well, there's still a European nation. America, Australia, South Africa, they were all colonized by Europeans.
Well, that's the thing. America is a European expanded colony, which then eventually rejected power of the Europeans, but still implemented a lot of the European things because most of the people that implemented the Constitution and everything that happened in America to a certain point, get enough babies moving and get enough economy going, you can actually define yourself fully as a nation. You don't become a nation after day one. It says that on paper, but you need to define yourself as a people because even, you mentioned Israel, even day one after that, they had a 6-day war to define if they were going to still be a thing anymore. They won. Yeah. And I think the Middle East never quite accepted it until they got their asses kicked. But that's outside of the question. Even when it comes to things as independence for Scotland, I voted yes because I knew what national sovereignty was, and then I voted for Brexit because we wanted national sovereignty. But between the people who, are the activists, the people in the public, and the people in government, and every middleman between all those three, there's a confusion between all three, to be fair, because they're like, we want national identity. Okay, so you're an ethno-nationalist? No, but we want to be a global country. We want to be part of the European Union, but we also want to be independent. But you can't be independent being part of the fucking union.
So that's it. See, the SNP, they would happily have an independent Scotland that was full of refugees just to spite the English. just to spite the English. That's what a lot of people don't seem to realise, is that a lot of what the SNP does is to try and keep that division of England and Scotland alive. Do you know? Because the English and the Welsh and the Northern Irish and the Irish as a whole, we are pretty much the same people. Do you know? You look at our DNA, it would be pretty much identical, because all white people, we come from Western hunter gatherers. Do you know? The other races can't say that. We all come from the same people, which is why we are all so similar. And that's what we're facing, this same enemy. I say enemy is probably not the right word. We're facing
They
this,
want us dead.
Yeah, do you know?
I mean, I don't think I want to be saying they're not the enemy where they want you dead if there wasn't police there to stop them.
Yeah, I was more just trying to save
know.
you some trouble when we call everyone
We've
the enemy.
done enough already. It's fine.
But sorry, what was I saying there?
Ethnic, heritage, national.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
and that's what the SNP really, and this Alba party are just another version of the SNP. They want the Scottish people to have a great level of disdain for the English. And
You mean Homeland wanted disdain for the English?
No, the SNP.
Okay, because I think you said Homeland.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, because that's kind of what everyone says about Homeland.
No, so the SNP want us to hold disdain for the English, and that's because, they're making us want to have disdain for the English, but the English people are facing the exact same problems as we're facing from their elites. That's the people that Westminster is no better than Holyrood, and just as Holyrood is no better than Westminster, they're both working towards our demise.
And I think now we're only starting to see the Scottish culture finally getting their arse into gear.
Yeah.
Because I think they're scared of Islam. And they're realising you got people like Hamza Yusuf's, is it Anna Sinwar?
Yeah, Anna
Of the Hamza Yusuf, the guy who did the white speech.
Yeah.
And then Ala Sarwar, who's the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, and then his dad, all best buddies, by the way, all very familiar in high schools, now have just created Islamic?
Yeah, because they want to mobilise and organise the Islamic force across Britain.
And it's a whole coalition. They're trying to get every Muslim or in it. And it's like, oh, that's racist, calling them all Muslim. I'm like, no, they've literally said this.
Yeah.
They've literally said this. So it's like, you're trying to tell people, assume by you can't have a national Christian identity or acknowledge that, because in Scotland, that counts as hate crime laws. But if someone else with a government-approved narrative can say as Islam's not allowed to be critiqued, they were trying to put things like Islamophobia as a law or definition, same as anti-Semitism. You can't criticise in any form.
Exactly.
But now that's been thrown out the window because Angelina's gone. Thank you for that. And I suppose...
Do you see if me or you gave the speech that Hamza Yusuf gave and replaced every white with brown or black, we'd have been lifted. 100%. Our lives would be ruined. But Hamza Yusuf, because exactly like you're saying, because he was speaking about white people, you can't be racist against white people. You can't be.
And I think we've normalised that to an extent, because as a people, we've kind of bought into this, I suppose, new Britain narrative that Tony Blair came in, like the 2000s.
It's all through schooling though, mate, that
It's everything, to be fair.
So in the 1990s, when I was growing up, we used to go to church for school. Like, school used to take us to church at certain times in the year, and we'd have like Christian assemblies. Do you know? Then, coming towards the end of the 90s, we started having kids taken out of our assemblies, and they were the Muslim kids, because I didn't know what colour was, because I spent the first 10 years of my life in Lossy, with my family being in the RAF. Didn't know what colour was, didn't know what racism was, because I lived in a homogenous society.
Same here, by the way.
Moved to Aberdeen when I was like 10, and that's when I really got to see the world. You know, I did live like first 10 years quite sheltered, live in this homogenous society, and then the first real influx of immigrants that we had in Aberdeen were Eastern Europeans, and a lot of them grafted. Do you know, like sleeping, they got nothing given to them, and then
They're quite good, to be fair, because
yeah.
I've worked with a lot of foreigners, and I've never actually had a gripe with any colour. I've only had people who don't want to fucking work.
But do you know who? So that's how we've always been raised, right? That is a brilliant way of putting it. This is what we were all taught at school. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah,
No, it's
we
fine.
were told it's all about working. As long as they'll come here and work, do you know, that's fine. And that was like the civic nationalism thing, because in the 90s folks say like everything was fine, like when that percentages were more manageable and there wasn't the racism and stuff like that. And that is exactly it, because people were coming here to work, and they weren't trying to push their way of life onto us. Now Christianity's been taken out of school because it offends, do you know? We're talking about racism. Like, we can't, if we was to attack somebody because they're black, instant racism. But look at all the victims that are happening in our streets. Wayne Broadhurst the other day, white man that just wanted to walk his dog. That asylum seeker was able to pick him out by the colour of his skin. People can say that I'm wrong in that, but that's how he picked him out. He came out of there, and have you seen the video? It is absolutely wild.
And it's gosh.
Do you know?
It's bad.
Grooming gang victims, hundreds of thousands of them, were targeted because they were white. They were called all these names under the sun with the slur of white in there. But if we, gets me. And at school, we're taught all these things about racism and being inclusive. And I believe, like me, I'll speak to anybody, but now that I'm more politically, I will not let a foreigner tell me how to live my life anymore. Do you know? And that's school is where they get them. School and the media, and it's even speaking to some of my siblings that are like 10 years younger than me. Speaking to them who've been brought up in a different era of schooling. Like, they think stuff like trans and all that's totally normal. Like, think people wanting to mutilate themselves and sterilize themselves, completely normal.
Yeah.
But me, I was brought up in the 90s. I was brought up around Christianity, so fair enough, it's given me a good head. And I'm not saying all Christians are great, by the way, because obviously, do you
Obviously
know?
not.
Yeah, but
No one's perfect.
what I'm saying is that's given me a better grounding than what the kids of today have got. They don't understand.
Sorry.
There's a lot of them, like the ones that are breaking through now though and coming on into the political sphere are going to be amazing. Do you know? Because they're the ones that have had enough.
You're on about Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z.
Yeah.
The ones that have had enough of being told that they're evil just because they're white. That they need to capitulate to every other race of people. They need to accept anything that's forced onto them because of the colour of their skin. But at the same time, colour of skin doesn't matter. Do you know? This is what people have been forced onto them for so long. And it's amazing to see that so many people are waking up. It's just a shame it's taken stuff like Southport to happen.
And I know, and I suppose it could be harder in Scotland because I think another element I've been trying to say to people is you don't have a culture. The reason Trump got in because there's this MAGA culture that everyone can see. Those people are nuts. Those people don't look so bad. And you're like, you just have to do that continuously over and over again. What happens afterwards is afterwards.
Yeah.
After, say, the main moment, say Trump getting in, and you can quarrel about what's what. Say Charlie Kirk and anyone who's gone mad about that in any extent. Or the way Democrats have just went out and say, we just need to kill people. Something like that. That's for Americans. But for the UK, there's been years of, say, Islam, the left, communism, the Fable Society, going through the entire extent of culture, school, education, the whole thing, up and down the country to change the country's nature from what it used to be. Because you were taught in the 90s is different what I was taught in 2010s. And quite then, we were still making fun of gays. We could say Fanny without a problem, because Fanny meant a few things.
Were you brought up in a time when you used to say to each other, I can say what I want, it's a free country?
We never got that.
No, we used to be able to say that.
No.
You cannot say that anymore.
No, we didn't get that. It was like still quite a homogenous school. Like there was maybe, to be honest, if out of the whole town of 5,000 people, there was only like we never really got anything bad with like immigrants or anything, except for last year. Thanks for that. No, because we had someone who was a Filipino background. This is going to sound a little bit gruesome, but might as well say it now. Filipino background. His mum worked in the care home. Not anymore because of her son, who got a free bus pass. Don't know where he's actually from, but he beat the hell out of a bus driver who ended up dying from his wounds.
For goodness sake.
That happened in the northeast in Elgin. And
Elgin, 6 miles away from Lossiemouth.
yeah, literally next door to you.
Yeah.
It's a 10-minute car drive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like that.
20 minutes. And it's like...
it's only about 10 minutes.
And the annoying thing is his pals were, let's put an ethnic line, all white, were laughing along, recording the video and all things like that. And the only time it ever popped up in the news again was maybe a month or two ago when he actually got his free bus license back. He got it back.
Goodness sake.
And I'm like, I feel absolutely devastated for anyone who heard that news. Because, I mean, there was a case similar to that for an abuser or a rapist or something who was a white Scottish guy. And that was something completely different. I'm like, whoa. This guy who beat the hell out of the bus driver, he's got his license back because in Scotland, under 22s have a free bus pass, which is paid by the taxpayer, but that's something else. But the only person I think was ever talking about why he got his license back was the Conservatives.
Yeah.
Russell Finley, I think it was. And I was like, good. I was like happy somebody talked about it. But let's face it, if we look at the whole political landscape, it's been dominated by left-wing social globalist politics for years.
Yep.
And it's going to be absolutely difficult to build a right-wing culture, which I think has only started really since August or maybe January.
Because people have been afraid.
July. Yeah.
Afraid of all these labels that they get tarred with. And you just have to realise that folk are going to call you whatever they're going to call you. You just got to be like, sweet. That's like when I gave that interview to the BBC and they said across the road they're calling you a racist and a fascist. How does that make you feel? And I'm just like, I'm cool with it. If it makes me racist and a fascist for standing up for my own people in my ancestral homeland, then so be it. But one point I should make is that people love to say, oh, you think that when you deport all these immigrants, all these foreign criminals and that you're not going to have any trouble, no criminals and stuff. We know that we have every people are going to have the bad bunch, do you know? But once we've got rid of millions and millions of people and we've got the finances, we've got the time, we've got the services to be able to deal with these people. Like, look at the prison. We deport all our foreign criminals. We'd have about 12,000 spaces in our prison systems, at least free, for all these white paedophiles, all these beasts that have just been let away with murder over this time. Like, we know that we have our own evil bunch. Like, every group is going to.
Because I'll put clarification, there's a town outside where we're talking about, which has actually got a bunch of ex-white paedophiles just living there next to families and so on. And they're I think that some of them are ex-con and some of them just were never given a name. And they're like,
Talking about paedophiles though, do you know that Israel have got a thing so that if you're Jewish and you're a paedophile and you get done for it, you can go and claim sanctuary over there.
I've seen, there's a lot of policies that don't make sense and it's a question about that.
But back to Scotland,
yeah,
talking about Elgin,
Scotland,
go like 2 hours north, less than 2.5 hours north, you've got Inverness, one of the most, is it the most northern city that we've got? But it's one of the, there's not much round Inverness.
No.
And the old barracks is about to get turned into another asylum seeker accommodation.
So's the one in Elgin where I remember my cousin's wedding was at.
Oh, class.
And I was like, great, thanks for annoying the one guy that might have gave you leverage. But you, like, I suppose you're in a party called the Homeland Party. I know I've dragged it right to the end to talk about this, but you're in a party called the Homeland Party. Now, even for me, I was a bit unsure about talking to Homeland, but you've been at the actual Aberdeen protests, doing speeches, some of them outside of here. But you were even doing the Peterhead United,
Yeah.
where I had Stephen Lenny, who organised the actual event, to get speakers on speaking about different issues. And I suppose when I was mean about culture, it's like, what's Homeland going to give culture to Scotland? Like, what's the plan?
But we don't have to give a culture to Scotland. Scotland has a culture. There is a Scottish culture. Like, to think that Scotland has an identity. That's what culture is. Culture is your identity. And we have an identity.
I mean, culture is a right-wing culture. I'm not saying Scotland doesn't have a culture at all.
Sorry.
No, I mean, there's no right-wing culture, but I'm like, what's out of the political landscape, the social landscape, what's Homeland offering to Scotland? Because you clearly care more about Scots than the SNP do. You're not globalists like they are.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's Homeland really to offer there?
Yeah, so we call ourselves the real green solution because the Green Party, what they're doing is trying to get rid of all our green spaces. They're trying to buy up all our farmland, to put solar panels on while they're dimming the sun. All this rubbish. They're saying that cow farts are dangerous to the environment, are dangerous to our people. Whereas Homeland, we want to hold on to nature. We want to hold on to the beauty of our scenery. We also, like, our main policy is remigration, and through remigration we plan on ensuring futures for our people. Look at the Scottish people. You go back in history, and if you're Scottish, there's probably like a 99% chance that you are that you've got farming in your blood. Do you know? So we want to stop all this. Like, after remigration is done, after remigration is done, we've got rid of everything. We want to, ensure our green spaces. We want to not enforce, but like empower people to have big families, using policies like tax relief if you have like more than a couple of kids. We want to get rid of all this stuff from schools that's teaching them degeneracy, like all the trans nonsense and stuff like that. Thing with the Homeland Party, there's no religion involved in it. Do you know? They want, as they taught me, like, and it really opened my eyes, is that ethnicity is greater than race, and race is greater than religion. Right. Do you know, any set of people can pick up religions, well, apart from like being Jewish and Islam, where you're supposed to be born into it, but there are a lot of white converts nowadays.
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of problems with those two religions alone.
Yeah.
Jews, you can't just join in.
No.
Islam, you can't just leave.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry.
So it's like there's two extremes to those cultures. So it's like,
but yeah, Homeland just wants our people to thrive again. That's what being a nationalist is. And the system has taught us, ever since the Second World War, that nationalism's evil. But nationalism is a natural order. And that's what the Homeland Party, they just want to restore that order. They want to give our people hope again. That's the main thing. And by holding on to the beauty of our nature is how we do it. Like, I got started off with the Homeland Party, and apart from leafleting for them, the best things I was getting involved in, it started with stuff like tree planting around Forfar, especially around the loch where they put beavers in.
Oh, you know? Okay.
So the council had planted trees and everything, but they just left them. There'd been no upkeep. So we had to remove those ones, remove all the rubbish that they'd left, all the non-biodegradable stuff that they'd left on the trees, and then we planted loads of trees, did loads of litter picking around there, just making it nice, do you know?
Because I've definitely seen posts on YouTube of you just leaving bags full of rubbish that just community working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what people seem to get a real problem with the party is the government hates you, as really does.
And that's people say that we're the biggest neo-Nazi or biggest fascist organisation in Britain, but we're on the electoral register. How can we be this evil thing if we're on the electoral register? It took a lot to get a nationalist party after the BNP onto the electoral register. And the biggest problem that people have is that we stand for the native population and that we say that ethnicity has a race characteristic to it. Do you know? And it does. We know what people call it identitary politics, or what. And but it's because we are losing our identity. We are the global, like our race is the global minority, but yet we're having to capitulate to minorities in our own nation, the minorities that are coming over and overthrowing our way of life. And the Homeland Party just wants to reverse those damages.
So you would say, what would be national British identity then? Would that be, I would assume, the English, the Scottish, the Irish, and the Welsh?
Yeah, but see, me, I try and watch how I say it now. I try and use the word island a lot because our island is my main concern. Fair enough, the Northern Irish are part of Great Britain, but that island is going to need those people, those men and women, as you're seeing. Who would have known it was multiculturalism that would have brought unionists and Republicans together? Do you know over there? Aye. It's through them uniting the exact same way it's through the Scottish, the English, and the Welsh uniting that we're going to be able to have our identities again. We're going to be able to save our people, because if our people are butchered, raped out of existence, do you know, are outbred so that eventually we do become this powerless minority in our own homeland, then we will have no identity because there will be no people.
That's why English has a cultural identity crisis right now, isn't
it? Exactly. You mentioned it earlier, but look at London, which is capital of England and it's classed as the capital of Britain, right? That is now less than 50% native population. If that doesn't worry people, the capital of our island of the United Kingdom is less than 50% native population, then you're pretty much part of the problem if you can't see that that's an issue. There's over 600,000 illegal immigrants in London. That's about 3 times the population of Aberdeen. So if they all decided to march one day, like you're saying, Hamza Yusuf and his Islamic ilk are they're trying to unify this Islamic force in Britain. That should not be allowed in our country when we're talking about our culture, our identity. That is a massive danger to our people. Like you're saying, like you cannot, once you're in Islam, there's no getting out of it. It's a war ideology. It's never changed its ways. It was made for conquering, and it's never changed, and it's the way that it will stay. And we're just allowing these people to come in and tell us that our people are bad. Our people should accept their people. And once again, like you said, that we could be having a debate with them. They're just giving us all the barrels. And you turn to Hamza Yusuf and just say you're wrong. You're racist.
Yeah.
You're Islamophobic.
Clearly.
And that's why you cannot be silenced by these labels. If you want to protect our people, if you want to stand up for our people, if you want our people to have a culture, have a way of life, to be able to thrive in our ancestral homeland, then you need to be able to not care about these labels, and you have to be willing to stand up and say who our people are. Like, you cannot enact remigration while you still think that someone can be born here and become one of us. Do you know? To think that someone like David Lammy is just as British as me or you is crazy. Like, he's saying that he wants reparations, even though if you look at his ancestry, the tribes that he came from were slavers. Do you know? They sold their fellow black man into slavery.
And I think there's just a lot of, basically, just call them useful idiots.
Yes.
That a lot of people take advantage of, and we have our own ones up here who keep that narrative you on about England versus Scotland, where it's like, to be honest, it's globalist socialism versus national patriotism.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get that conversation going because it's so fast to blame somebody. But I suppose when you're on about outside forces, Islam's one of the main ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just Jews, not just money, it's not just globalists, it's ourselves as well. There's a lot of people who fight amongst themselves just to win the argument. Because I've seen yes campaigners, someone who supports Scottish independence, who said it's racist people putting up the saltire flag,
Yeah.
which is the Scottish flag. So I'm like, oh, you're literally trying to drive a wedge between Scottish pride amongst your version of it, amongst their version of it, which we're both unionists, pro UK,
Yeah.
where the cross in the UK, which is on your little badge on there, is
Yeah.
it? It's like the whole cross on there is because it represents Scotland. The whole UK is represented in there, and people say, oh, the country's not united. Well, the people are, the governments aren't.
Also, they say that about the saltire, right? It's St Andrew's flag, right? And that is one of, if not the oldest flag in the world.
Well, Scotland's the oldest country,
Yeah.
and the culture too.
But that flag was flown as they were going on the Crusades. Scottish, English, Welsh, Irish, well, maybe not Irish, but Scottish, English, and Welsh all together going into these Crusades. So, like, that's what throws me. These people that are like, oh, Scotland should be independent. We were just fighting clans. Fair enough, we were fighting against the English as well. But
We were horrible amongst each other.
yeah, exactly.
Like, we were never nice to each other. When I meant that 80%, it was 100%.
We were fighting amongst ourselves. We were just fighting clans. Then, when we united with England, we conquered most of the world. Do you know?
And it's like you're trying, like we were mentioning this before like when we met in a cafe. It's like people want to say there's not a UK. There's people who actually say there's no such thing as a United Kingdom, but yet hold a British passport. It's the ignorance is really just funny to some point, but a lot of people do just ignore what Scottish people do because it's so irrelevant to what everything else is going on.
Yeah.
But it's like you moan about empire, you moan about Britain, but you crown Edinburgh as it's like your crowning achievement.
Yeah.
Well, you know what that is? It's your Georgian British success story, really, because all the money that came from the Scottish Enlightenment and all the economy and all the everything else, like everything from trade, economics, working with like everyone, because you had different people in Scotland, in Edinburgh, building that city. Like the new town of Edinburgh was like a big sort of reward to the king for some reason.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, your whole British success story is placed in Edinburgh. It's such a beautifully made city because you had people and a culture who wanted to make it. It's a crown jewel of the British Empire just as much as, well, London was.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say London, but it's like, see, every single English city and every other city is really just denigrated to what it used to be, like really to the two New Yorks in a way.
Yeah.
Because you look at Birmingham, you're like, what am I supposed to like about here? It's like you've got a whole bunch of skyscrapers with this old Victorian building in the middle, and you're like, how do I know this is Birmingham and I'm not stuck in Manchester or New York or somewhere else? You just don't know. And like Edinburgh is probably one of the last few examples in this Isles that have a British, like a British city, because the money, the wealth, and everything in it is literally just that.
Yeah.
It's a crown jewel of British identity, and I think when we talk about like what the success story of us as people is, we got to remember our history, but also not like forget our past as well.
Yeah.
Like be like patriots, where we realize Scots were really bad to each other, but we also were able to move on and work with others, like such as the English.
That's what we should be proud of our people. And our people, we're Scottish, and I am so proud to be Scottish, but I'm also proud to be part of Britain. Do you know? Like they are in this fight that we're facing against all the dangers of multiculturalism. The English are my brothers and sisters in this fight. Do you know?
Yeah, because we support everyone that's down there. Because no one wants to see people getting no one wants to see this whole thing getting worse. Because we're now going to see the idea of a civil war breaking out, and you're like, fuck in hell.
A civil war where a white British civ-nat will turn on a white British ethno-nationalist because the civ-nat is an African friend.
And I think that worries people.
Yeah.
That worries people a lot. And it's like, people would try and drive a wedge, but even if you saying that, it's like, some people would already watch the first minute like, oh, fuck it. It's like, oh, but you saying that kind of, it's like, yeah, we're driving wedges, and before we go a little bit over the time that it should be, but this was good enough.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you so much for having me, mate.
Yeah. Would you like to tell people where they can find you?
Oh, you can find me over most social medias. You'll find me on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Facebook. All of them apart from Facebook, just look for Josh Fernie, and on Facebook, I'm Nature's Nationalist.
Thank you for Josh for coming on here.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
We'll hope to get the next person soon, but please be sure, like, share, subscribe, and join the N.O.P podcast, and join the locals page for additional questions you can actually ask the next guest personally. That would be a whole half an hour segment. If we can get some people to join that would be really useful, and you can actually get your own questions sent directly to them, and the answers will be put onto the locals page for you to follow. So thank you for Josh, and thank you for you to be watching. Thank you.